What's going on, everybody? I am the Bad Duck and you are the internet. Welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about the top 10 movies of 2023. And before we get into the list, I just have to say 2023 was a big year for me in general. There's a lot of personal changes that happened throughout the year. I met a lot of cool people. I started 2 podcasts, one at least consistent podcast, but other than that, I mean, it's been a great year for me on the content side of things. I've grown immensely. I think we started the year on 450. We're approaching 900 at the current moment. We might hit 900 before this comes out, but it's been a great year for me on the content side of things, and I hope that we continue to boom and grow throughout the next year of 2024, even though it might be a lighter year in terms of movies, but wrestling still exists. We're still going to cover that on at least a monthly basis. If you want more wrestling content from me, I have a weekly podcast with my friend Caleb, or Big K Call Game, over on that podcast, over on that YouTube channel. Link in the description. Check it out. It's a lot of fun. It comes out every week on Saturday. Let's kind of just jump in the top 10 movies of 2023. Starting off with number 10 is Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. I was super excited for this movie. I have been starting to get into Dungeons & Dragons for about a year and a half now. I've started playing with some of my friends. I love Baldur's Gate 3. I love that game. It was my game of the year for the longest time, still is. And Dungeons & Dragons has kind of cemented itself as kind of this fun thing I like to do. And Dungeons & Dragons Among Thieves I was super excited for it. I thought that it could be one of the best movies of the year just because of how it was designed. Dungeons & Dragons is such a unique and fun thing, and it's so imaginative and it's so creative, and everyone has their own choices to make. You can do basically anything in the sandbox that the DM creates for you. I was interested to see how they would develop that into a movie, because movies are, linear, to be unique like how most campaigns go, but Dungeons & Dragons Among Thieves does that immensely. It's a fun and creative time. It's hilarious. It's one of the best movies I've seen all year. Obviously, it's number 10, and I can't say more about this, that it should have made more money at the box office, but this year has been weird at the box office, as we all know, because only one movie, two movies, I think, may have hit $1 billion this year. Dungeons & Dragons, I think, deserves a sequel just because of how fun it was and how much they have left to explore of the Dungeons & Dragons world. And I believe that Dungeons & Dragons Among Thieves hits every mark into a comedic value that also has this nice little... It's your casual adventure, like your normal adventure movie, but with the spin of Dungeons & Dragons, that it hits the comedic moments. It's very, very creative, and I really enjoyed how the film does everything, and I can't say more about it. It's definitely one of the ones I want to rewatch throughout 2024 and re-explore and delve deep, since I know more about Dungeons & Dragons now since I've seen the movie. I think that it's one of the best movies of the year, and I can't say more about how much fun it was. It's not like great and a script level, or even just like when you want to delve deep into how good film is. Dungeons & Dragons Among Thieves is just one of those fun films that you can kind of turn your brain off and enjoy, and that's what it was, and I love it immensely for it. Number 9 is a 2022 film that came out in 2023. I know that makes no sense, but it got pushed a release somewhat in 2022, but fully came out in 2023. It's weird, I know, but that's Chevalier, and I fucked that up. I know it's French, I can't say French words, but the French Revolution is one of those periods that I love to research and love to read about. I'm a big history geek, and the French Revolution is one of my favorite time periods to learn about. And this film is so great. It hits the time period both on an aesthetic level and on an accurate level. It's so well done in the way how it depicts the French Revolution in that time period, and it tells this story that's kind of been lost to history, and it's so well done. It grabs you emotionally. It's one of those stories of tragedy that's also just gripping. You can't let go as soon as you turn on the film. It's one of those things where you want to see your character triumph, but you know that history may not have given the proper ending to that person that we would see from a fictional story, and goddamn did they hit it. This film is awesome, and it's sad that it's not on Blu-ray or 4K. It's one of those films that strangely just ended up on Hulu randomly, because that's what Disney wanted to do, or Disney Plus, I guess, if you're in other places, because they hate Americans. But anyways, Hulu has this. I think it's still there. It's great. I fully recommend to anyone who is looking for a little bit of an emotional tie and maybe might be interested in the French Revolution, because it tells that story at the same time as telling the story of Joseph Bologna. And my god, the actor who plays him is great. Samara Weaving's in this. She's great. Kelvin Harrison plays Joseph. The chemistry between Samara Weaving and Kelvin Harrison is so fucking good. It drives this film and makes it even better. There's something about their relationship that it makes this movie 10 times as good as it should have been. Like, I was expecting this to be an average film, maybe in the 15 range of the year, but man, this film really hit for me. It's a great movie. It's a tragic movie, and it's so good. If you have time and you really want to get a more serious movie, a more historical movie, I guess, this is a film for you. Just check it out. It's so good. I recommend it. Obviously, it's in top 10 of the years, hitting at number 9. It's great. Number 8 is Blue Beetle. Superhero movies have been really on the downturn this year. I mean, nothing really hit besides Across the Spider-Verse. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But you have The Marvels, who came out to an average reception. I liked it personally, but it wasn't that great. Shazam 2 was okay. Everyone loved the TMNT movie. I thought it was alright. Ant-Man came out stumbling out of the gates. It still has a really bad reflection in the eyes of the internet. And then if you consider Transformers comic book movies, that didn't do so well. Overall, the year has had a lot of missteps with superhero movies, but Blue Beetle hit this really special mark for me. I loved it so much, and it became a comfort movie for me overall. It was this movie about a family and about his culture, and it was just so fucking good. They delved even Hami's relationships and his culture, and I really love that. I think that's what they should do when they have to do with the character that has such a deep and rich history, like Jaime Reyes. Jaime Reyes has been a character that has not been depicted in live action ever before, and this is the first time we're seeing him. And honestly, this is a perfect origin movie. I loved it so fucking much. It's hilarious. It's fun. It's heartwarming. Like I said, it's a perfect comfort movie for me, and I watch this regularly now just because of how fucking good it is. I love this film so much. It really impacted me when I went to see it. I think I cried, genuinely. And I know it's one of those like standard like origin movies like Iron Man, where it's like, yes, you have your character and then you have the dark reflection of your character, but the way they spin that with the villain, I can't remember his name. Again, this film does have a lot of weaknesses, but I still love it that dearly. How they spin that and how he is just a man who wants to right his wrongs, and god damn, it's so good. It's such a great first outing for Blue Beetle. I really hope that the average box office performance that Blue Beetle had this year, when everything else really didn't do so well, really shines back on WBD, and hopefully they go forward with the sequel and the new DCU, since this is the first DCU movie, I guess, kind of. It's really confusing how they're still doing that, but Blue Beetle is an excellent first entry, if it is certainly that. Like I said, Blue Beetle is a generic origin movie, and honestly, you can have a lot of faults for that, but this film really hit that heartwarming beat so well and so awesome that I genuinely love this movie so fucking much for what it is, and I can't have it not in the top 10 for how it impacted me and how much I do genuinely love this film. Coming in at number 7 is the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, and yes, I will probably be the only person who puts the Five Nights at Freddy's movie in the top 10. Why is that? It's because it's made for me. I've been a huge fan of the franchise since it first came out in 2014 when I was 12 years old. I'm going to be 22 this year. That's insane that this franchise has nearly been with me for around half my life. And this is what the film is for. It's not for the people who come in as a general audience and does not know anything about it. This isn't for people who, probably the only film they saw this year was Barbie. no offense, we'll talk about Barbie in a minute, but Five Nights at Freddy's is that film for the hardcore fans. And I really do love that. I think that that's where we're going with franchises now, is that it's no longer sometimes for the general audiences, as we've seen from like the Arrows movie or the Beyonce movie, or the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, and many more that came out this year, that they're targeting their target audience and they can carry your box office. I really do love that, because then it stops becoming this monotonous thing where we're trying to introduce things for the general audience. And the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, as much as a lot of people will dunk on it for being this kind of mishandled storytelling thing, which it was, for many people who don't know the franchise. I've known the franchise, and I absolutely loved it because it didn't treat me like I was just anybody else. It treated me like I was a fan, and I generally do love it. I think that's what they needed to do with this film, and they nailed it on the head. I love everything from it, from Josh Hutcherson's performance, from the animatronics looking amazing. They could have changed the look of the animatronics, and honestly, most studios would have. But what Blumhouse did, they said, nah, this is for the fans, and this is what we're gonna do. And also adding the YouTuber Easter eggs, so much as we missed Markiplier in that. They hit most of them on the head. It was great to see all of them, even ones I don't really know. This was for the fans, and they didn't shy away from it, and I love that for that reason, and that's why it's landing here at number 7. Yes, it's not the greatest film of all time, but goddamn, is it good for the fans. Landing at number 6 is Scream 6. And I did a review about this way back when it first came out, and I still hold it in high regards. Scream 6 may be the last Scream film, we don't know, because of what's going on behind the scenes of Scream 7, and honestly, I'd be okay with this being the ending of the franchise. Surely, there's some things that are left in the air, but I can let those go, because I'm a massive Scream fan. There used to be a Scream mess where Kaguya was, but she's no longer there because that belt got a lot bigger. But the Ghostface is a big part of my life. I love the Scream films, and obviously there's some bias here from me being such a fan of the Scream films that it lands so high. Scream 6 is an excellent evolution of the franchise, going from leaving Woodsboro once again to a bigger city with more people, to being more crowded, to making everything more scary, to be in such a big area where anyone could be Ghostface, and they did it perfectly here. I love Sam's progression as a character. Melissa Barrera is an excellent actress, and she needs more work. Even if you don't like her comments, she's excellent at her job, so stop fucking firing her for bullshit. That's a whole different thing. I want to make a video about that, but I kind of just pushed it off to the side. Anyways, Jenna Ortega is back as Tara, and she's great as always. Jenna Ortega is working her ass off. I think she's got like 4 projects right now that she's about to film. There's one coming out in January, I believe, that's about a teacher and a student relationship. That it looked really odd when I heard about it. But anyways, Scream 6 is the perfect progression for the franchise, and if it's the end of the franchise, fine by me. This was it nailed it out of the park, and it's such a great film. It's probably the 3rd best movie in the franchise overall, solely based on the performances, if not also on the story that they went with as they continue to progress through that story from the 5th movie into the 6th movie, and they did it a lot better than the 5th movie did. So Scream 6 landing at number 6, fittingly enough. But yeah, Scream 6 is an excellent film. Go check it out if you haven't. They're great. Landing at number 5 is the film that I pushed this video off for, The Iron Claw. I didn't get a chance to see it when it first came out that weekend, and I eventually got to see it after New Year's. So that's why I pushed off this video for so long, because I wanted to see this film. Wrestling is a big part of this channel in my life as well. I mean, there's a WWE belt right there. Anyways, in the Iron Claw was something that I didn't really know about it. Like, I did a reaction about it, and it did awesome on the channel randomly enough. And people were commenting about what a roller coaster I was in for, and thankfully no one spoiled the film for me or spoiled what the story was about, because god damn was that good. It was so fucking good. Everyone's performances in it, from Zac Efron to Lily James to everyone else that I'm not going to be able to remember their names off of the top of my head, do an excellent job of a story about both wrestling, family, and tragedy, and they hit everything. They did everything so well. The soundtrack is great. The acting, the cinematography, the story, how it's built is amazing. And it's so hard to tackle a story about tragedy, much like theirs, and how it's so daunting and cursing, that they try to persevere in doing it in such a way where somehow you come out with it with this weird feeling of both like happiness but sadness at the same time, because of the ending of the film and how and Kevin's story's ending versus the rest of his family's ending is very, very different. And honestly, that mixed feeling gave me a lot of mixed feelings in the end, but the film is so fucking good throughout that. The story about the wrestling and in the family aspect of the film, and how the family pushes each other, and sometimes pushing them too close to the edge, and it's so fucking good. And I like, literally, I know it's at number 5 for me, but that's just because the 4 films above it are that fucking great. And honestly, Iron Claw deserves as many Oscars as it can get. I really hope they put it in for as many as they can, because it's that fucking good, and everyone's performances in it is fucking great. The 5 films on the top of this list, honestly, are all that great, that they deserve as many Oscars as they can get, but they're all gonna get something, I hope, but they're all going to be fighting for. Iron Claw is great. If you haven't seen it, go to the theaters and watch it. It's worth the theater experience. Number 4 is Godzilla -1. This is one of the only other reviews I did besides Scream, because of the WGA strikes of the movies that came out this year, and Godzilla -1 is great. I did the whole review about it is up on the channel. I'll put it into the corner above to go more in depth about it. But this film is fantastic. The visual effects are top notch. The story is amazing, and they made it easy to digest. It's a Godzilla film, of course, to like the extent of there's Godzilla in it, and this is a story about how to take him down from the human perspective. But that's scraping the surface of how this film's topics and story is, and honestly, it's one of the best films of the year. And it's easy to digest even for someone who doesn't really do subtitles that well. That's just because the ADHD. But the experience I had throughout this film is so touching and so heartwarming. Like, most of the films this year have some type of heartwarming aspect to it that make it so great, and Godzilla -1 really does hit it. And the praise I gave this year, that it might have been one of the best films of the year, if not the best film of the year when I first watched it, is high praise. I know it's at number 4 right now, but it's just that good. It made me question about these other films, if they should be behind Godzilla -1. I eventually landed at 4 for it, just because how I felt about the other films this year. And God, Godzilla -1 is probably the best Godzilla film I've seen, period. It's that good. It's probably the best Godzilla in the franchise. Godzilla -1 is one of the best films of the year. I can say that for sure, though. Check out the review if you haven't, or just go watch the movie. They're both great. Moving on to number 3, which was a late change, was Barbie. Barbie was set up at number 2 for a long, long time, just because of how great it is. Sure, and I know a lot of people did not like this movie because they thought that it was woke, which, if you say a movie is woke, I immediately throw out your argument about anything else about the film, that you immediately have no argument, because you're going off of politics that don't really matter when you're talking about it, that are non-existent in this film. Barbie is a film about women. That's what it is. It's about women and womanhood, and I'm not qualified to really talk about that because I'm not a woman. I don't fall in any on the spectrum of womanhood, and this movie does. The movie does an amazing job to how they discuss it and how they talk about it in such a way where it doesn't isolate manhood either. So, and it talks about the mental health of men and how they should discuss their interests and discuss everything that through Ken. Ken is supposed to be the bad guy through half this film, but in the end, they talk about how he's as damaged as Barbie is throughout this film and how he's used, and it talks about that, and it does an excellent job throughout that. And honestly, the talking points about womanhood and how it is to live as a woman are excellent. It made me cry in the theater. I went by myself, and it made me bawl my eyes out because of how it's told and how great it's done. Greta Gerwig, Margot Robbie, everyone on board. Ryan Gosling, who's probably won an Oscar for his Best Supporting Actor, do an amazing job. Barbie is such a good film, and I don't know why people are thinking it's alright. Honestly, it might be a red flag if you think it's okay, because it's that fucking good. It's action packed. It's fun. They have musical aspects to it that make it even better. I don't like musicals, but I'm Just Ken goes fucking hard. The soundtrack is amazing. Headlined by Billie Eilish, which I can't remember what the song's called. But yeah, Barbie is such a fun time. At the same time, it's telling you such a great story and great message that honestly, this will probably be a classic for years to come. It might come out as the best film of 2023 in many people's eyes just because of how great it is. Moving on to number 2 is Across the Spider-Verse. This is also one of the reviews I did before the WGA strike, and I talked about it back then. It's a great film. It rivals the first one, which is one of my favorite films of all time. I genuinely think that Across the Spider-Verse, if I go rewatch it right now, I might think about it. It might be better than the first. It's one of the best films of all time, and I don't feel shy saying that. Across the Spider-Verse is a great story with amazing animation, with great performances, all the way through. And it uses Spider-Man as a vehicle to tell its story, and it doesn't shy away from being nerdy about Spider-Man at the same time as telling a story that is so impactful. Across the Spider-Verse has one of the best cliffhangers since Empire Strikes Back. It's that great that we might have to wait another 5 years for it. Spider-Verse makes that wait so worth it because of how great the story is and how great the movie is. And overall, I can't praise it more than I did in my review. The technical aspects of it as well, not to mention, are awesome. The way they animated Spider-Punk, everywhere they go from Moonbazin into the Spider Society, whatever you want to call it, building are excellently done. The animation is fantastic. Honestly, if you're an animator on this film and you're watching this top 10 movies of the year for some reason, give yourself a round of applause, a pat on the back, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what to give you. You guys deserve more time off, that's what I know for sure. I mean, if it's any consolation prize, a random guy who's been doing YouTube for nearly 10 years says your film is one of the best of the year, and that's more praise than I can give. I don't know. If you haven't seen Across the Spider-Verse yet, go watch it. It's not a kid's movie. If you're worried about the animation aspect to it, it's not like that. Animation has something like that for years. Animation has been a way to tell a story rather than a different genre. Rounding out the year is the second half of Barbenheimer, which is Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer, again, like Chevalier, again, I fucked it up. It's French. I don't know how to say French words. I apologize to the French. Actually, I don't apologize to the French. I really don't. Oppenheimer, much like that other movie I talked about at number 9, I believe, is a historical movie. It's about Robert J. Oppenheimer, portrayed by Cillian Murphy and expertly done by Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan has been doing a great films throughout the last few years since he left the Dark Knight trilogy with Interstellar, Tenet. There's some other ones I'm forgetting. And finally, with Oppenheimer, might be his magnum opus. The scale and the script in general is fantastic. For someone who knows jack shit about science, easy to digest and easy to understand, even though it's a 3-hour movie about a guy who made a nuclear bomb, which I have no idea how that works. I don't know anything about that, besides that I know about those throughout history class. But Oppenheimer does this in such a way where it doesn't only discuss his impact on history through those bombs, but also the impact after that and how the United States fucked him out of everything in his life. That they digest the things that were never supposed to be in the public eye, like his affair with Florence Pugh's character, which I don't know her name, but she was a communist, that's all I know. Well, he was a communist too, so was his wife at one point in time. But anyways, not the point. But this film does it excellently, and the script and the soundtrack is something else, man. Dude, when they were doing the first test for the nuclear bomb, I know what happens. Because I'm here. You're here. We're both here. We're both sitting here. You're looking at me through this camera. Well, now I'm looking at this camera. You're looking at me through the screen. We're both here. We know what happens. But the way Christopher Nolan has set up the scene and set up how this bomb, it has changed history, and how that you're like worried it may just blow up the world. The movie is set nearly 80 years ago. And we're sitting here, like, I'm literally clutching the person next to me's hand, like, gripping it, like I'm gonna break their hand. I'm here. I know what happens. That's some extra-ability filmmaking. There's an anecdote from what happened. I love this film. In the 3 hours of greatness, I don't think there's a bad scene. I don't think there's a bad performance in this film. There are so many people jam-packed in this film that are great actors. They could lead this movie themselves, but Christopher Nolan uses them so expertly that they don't need to. And Cillian Murphy deserves Best Actor. I'm gonna say that right now for his performance in this film. It's so fucking good. Christopher Nolan does an excellent job. I truly think that this is his magnum opus. That this is the greatest film he's made of all time. It's just that fucking good. Christopher Nolan nailed it in this film. But yeah, 2023 was a weird year. We had the WGA strikes, we had weird box office performances, and I had a great year content-wise. Personally, it was just kind of all over the place, but overall, I'm excited to get on with 2024. For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm actually excited for a year to happen, and I can't wait to bring you guys more content starting this year, whether it be through podcasts with the Curbs Down podcast, some other projects I'm working on, film reviews, wrestling stuff. I'm very excited for this year, content-wise, and I can't wait to share it with you guys. Until then, have fun, be safe. I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.